I was in the middle of doing a video. I was actually editing a video, and I started seeing this kind of showing up on my timeline. And I'm not even going to replay any of the videos at all. But what I was seeing where people were, and some people, like I said, have made full videos about this, making a claim that these hurricanes that we're seeing right now at the time of me recording this, we're going through Hurricane Milton, which is hitting Tampa, the city of Tampa right now, and other towns right along that area on the west coast of Florida, the Florida peninsula. And they've also been plagued with tornadoes. I've been following it off and on throughout the day. It's horrible. And then the hurricane that came before that, it did a lot of damage, more in the interior of the Southeast. And what I'm hearing people saying is that, this is God's way of basically destroying sundown towns. Now, I'm going to just get as real with you as possible. One of my own personal policies is I never get in front of the camera. If I'm really emotional about something, I give myself time to think and process, and that I did. But in this particular case too, but I'm gonna tell you, this one is, hopefully I'll get through it, because I can't tell you how angry that made me to see the amount of stupidity, the amount of, dare I say, retardation that I see amongst people who would use this kind of analogies or, come to these types of conclusions, at this time, because I'm going to walk through your stupid logic. And I said it, it's a very stupid logic. Number one, although there may have been what you consider sundown towns that were in the path of these hurricanes, there were a lot of people all around in those areas that had nothing to do with the history tied to those towns. There were many people, especially black folks, who also were adversely impacted by these storms. And I'm not just tying this to black people. You got white people that do good things. You got Hispanic people. You got a lot of people who live in these areas that have nothing to do with the racist past of a handful of towns that may still be trying to hold on to the past. And the fact that someone would use their religion, if your religion is telling you to go out here on social media and you have, there's some videos where people are out here literally laughing and praising their God for the destruction of these towns. What it shows me personally is that I am continuously grateful for completely abandoning Christianity and just religion in general, because this is the type of foolishness that turns people away from what you're putting out here when you would say something like that. But let's get a little bit deeper into your logic, shall we? Now, you are focusing on a handful of towns that you have earmarked as sundown towns, you saying because of some of the things that they have done in the past. And we're not going to erase that history because, yes, the South is full of a lot of things that, these southern towns. And shoot, I mean, how many videos have we done on that, where they've done some wild things, some very demonic things to black people. We know this. But let me allow me to widen your scope a little bit. If you are saying that and you are standing in America, well, guess what? The United States was built on slavery. So while you're saying all of that, wherever you are in the United States, you are part of a system that has benefited from that kind of activity. When you look at Washington, D.C., for example, last I checked, Washington, D.C. is still functioning. Washington, D.C. is still doing quite fine. It's still standing. So if your God, whoever this God is, if he's so angry about the sin of how black people were mistreated, why is Washington, D.C. still standing? Let's go even further. We can also look at New York City. There are some people who are out here on social media that are saying this, and they are sitting very comfortably in New York City. Well, do you know any history at all about New York City? Let me enlighten you on some things about New York City. For example, the main park, Central Park, for example, many of you are very aware that Central Park was built on an actual town that was founded and inhabited by free, and some of them weren't free, African slaves. And so they decided, the powers that shouldn't be decided, hey, we're just going to mow this whole town down and we're just going to build a park over it. Then not too far from Central Park, they were doing some construction, trying to build up another extension to a building somewhere. And guess what? They were like, wait a minute, we got to stop the press. Why are all these bones coming up? Well, they discovered that was a burial ground. There was some people there that they just, that they found. It was like, wait a minute, what are we doing? So they had to stop the press, stop what they were doing, because they were literally building buildings on top of the bones of black folks. I can go on and on all day. This is all over the country. You are part of a system that's built on this stuff, and you're cheering because a tiny portion of it is, and that's the proof that he's raining down his judgment. But America, the system itself, is still standing quite nicely. The last I checked, it shows just how out of touch, how ignorant and stupid a lot of people are. And what religion does, it feeds into all of that. It does. Well, let's go even further with this, shall we? Well, if you take the time, I said, man, if I had the time, if I really had the time, that's why I'm like, man, I need an assistant or something, because there's things I would like to get done. I just don't have enough, arms to do it. But I was going to actually track all the towns all along the west coast of Florida that are going to be adversely impacted by this storm, that are towns that were founded by black folks. And there's quite a few of them. So your God is destroying these towns too, in the name of Sundown Towns? I mean, I want you to really think about what you're putting out here. See, the thing is that these religious people have a scripture for every destruction. Have you noticed that? Every time there's a destruction of some kind that erupts somewhere in the world, they can pull out a scripture in a moment. I mean, they got a scripture for every destruction. Every destruction that happens, they got a scripture for it. It's very convenient how that works out, isn't it? It works out quite nicely, for those that stay on the destruction mode. I mean, there's a fire breaks out. Oh, there's a scripture for that. If there's a flood that breaks out, oh, there's a scripture for that. But why is it that the scriptures that talk about you laying hands on the sick and watching them recover, why are you not manifesting that? You're supposed to be depopulating hospitals by now. Why are you not doing that? Why are you not manifesting that? You're supposed to be raising people from the dead right now. Why are you not doing that? In fact, during these storms, you should be the first line of defense, going down there to these people who are sick, these people who are hurting right now. You should be the first line of defense. If they need food, you need to be repeating what your elder brother, Jesus, when he was, 5 loaves and the 2 fish, he said, greater works than these shall you do. So these people should be of no lack when it comes to food, because you supposed to be doing greater things than he did, but y'all ain't doing jack. Y'all ain't doing jack. Instead, you sit comfortably in another part of this system, and you just sit back and just be dishing out all kind of scriptures and saying, yeah, look at God, he going after them right now, not realizing that you ain't that far behind. So this is not a video to sit here and to tell you that, you got to kiss everybody's behind and, we got to love everybody. No, this ain't it at all. What I'm saying is you need to start checking your own logic, because your own logic don't even add up. It doesn't at all. I mean, a lot of the stuff I'm hearing, it is the most self-destructive stuff that I've ever heard. Who cheers at towns that are inhabited by people who are doing good things? Who cheers at that? Meanwhile, Washington, D.C. is still standing up. But you're cheering because people are getting adversely impacted. There are a lot of good people in those areas. But you sit back and just assume a whole demographic of people in a whole entire region and just come to one little conclusion that, yeah, they must have did something bad. They must have did something wicked, without even knowing any of the details. We got people down there that we know personally that have been adversely impacted by this. Beautiful family. And I've talked about them. I mentioned it in a video I did, I think, earlier. They had nothing to do with a sundown town. Nothing. But yet your mouth is out here cheering and reveling in their loss. You and your crooked logic can go straight to hell. How about that? Because that kind of foolishness has to stop. And you may not like what I'm saying, and I hope it does make you very uncomfortable. I really do. But this stuff is too much. On this platform, what we try to do is that we try to say, listen, when all these things happen, we want to be a viable solution. We want to provide solutions. We don't want to sit up here and run our mouths and talk about and postulate this and that or whatever. You got too many people doing that. What can we do tangibly to help people who are in need? Starting with our own folks. And we have, to the utmost, have tried to model that out over and over again. And even with that, people will still find ways to find an argument. Because what it shows me is that a lot of people aren't even interested in that. It's a lot more comfortable in arguing, picking fights, listening to what you want to hear, and that's it. Listen, if that's what you want to do, then that's you. But don't come here with that. Don't come here with that mess. To the best of our ability, we should want to help people, let alone should want to help our own. And if the only solution you have is throwing out a bunch of scriptures, doing the Birdman rub, hand rub, because you're seeing whole towns being destroyed and wiped out, there is something very demented and sick about you and whatever religion it is that you follow. And my hope is that nobody ever follows you ever again.